Have you ever been coding away only to be stopped in your tracks by an error message? It can be incredibly frustrating, right? If that's you, then you're in the right place. Today, we're tackling a common TypeScript error that many developers face. I totally get it. Seeing an error like property user does not exist on type request can make you feel like you're hitting a brick wall. You're not alone in this. Many developers encounter this issue when working with Express and TypeScript. Let's dive into the specific situation at hand. One user recently shared their code snippet where they were trying to access rec.user in their Express app. They received the error message when compiling their TypeScript code. Sound familiar? If so, let's explore this together. So why does this error occur? This happens because TypeScript doesn't recognize the user property on the request object by default. We'll break down how to properly extend the request type to include user information. And stick around. At the end, I'll share a quick tip on how to avoid similar issues in the future. You won't want to miss it. To resolve the TypeScript error, the user needs to extend the request interface to include the user property. This can be done by creating a custom type definition. Next, the user should ensure that TypeScript recognizes the new type definition. This can be achieved by including the file in the TypeScript configuration. Now the user can implement the middleware that populates the user property on the request object. This middleware should be added before the route handler. Finally, the user should test the application to ensure that the error is resolved and the user property is accessible in the route handler. Fun fact, did you know that TypeScript was developed by Microsoft to help developers catch errors early? It's like having a safety net while coding. Now let's look at the answers provided by other users. An alternative solution involves using a custom interface for the request object. This user encountered issues with the GraphQL Express function not recognizing their new interface. They suggest defining an auth request interface that extends the standard request, allowing for an optional user property. It's important to note that TypeScript requires the auth request to be defined as potentially undefined. This is indicated by the undefined in the type definition, ensuring that the user property is optional. Now let's see a response from a different user. An alternative solution involves extending the request interface. This user suggests creating a new interface called MyUserRequest that includes an optional user property. By using a question mark, you can avoid the error when accessing req.user. Let's check out another perspective from a different user. An alternative solution comes from a user who faced a similar issue with the property user on the request object. They suggest checking the server authentication file in the Octa-Angular Node tutorial for more context. That's all on that answer. Let's take a look at another one. An alternative solution provided by another user is to add a typeroots property to your tsconfig.json file. This tells TypeScript where to find declaration files. By default, TypeScript looks in node modules/types, but specifying typeroots clears those defaults. They also suggest creating a types.dts file to extend the request interface with a user property. Now, let's dive into a different answer from another user. An alternative solution provided by another user suggests modifying your middleware file. They recommend declaring a module for Express Serve Static Core and extending the request interface to include the user property. Here's the quick tip I promised. Always define your custom types when working with TypeScript and Express. This practice can save you a lot of headaches down the line. And there you have it. By extending the request type, you should no longer see that pesky error. Remember, defining types is key to a smoother coding experience. If you found this helpful, hit that subscribe button for more tips and don't miss our next video.